All right, everybody, it is October 1915 on the Western Front, and things are not looking so good for the French. I have to say, this is probably the quickest I've ever seen the Western Front just collapse like this in any game that I played like this. Now, this is my first game, so maybe there's a few errors around here someplace that are lurking, but I've never had this kind of luck before. All right, over here, the fun city of, was it Lille? Yeah. That has fallen to the Germans. It has been ransacked and overrun. They had three army groups right here attack it and just blitzed it, just took it off the face of the earth. So now the thing is like, here's Paris. The only thing between these units, because there's the railhead, would advance to right here. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Paris is in striking range of at least in 2 turns of being assaulted by the German corps right here. The only thing standing in its way is one lonely corps of British, and if these guys pull off the line and scoot over to stop it, which means either you save your front over here or you save Paris. It's like damned if you do and damned if you don't type thing, I think. And all right, there used to be a fort right here. Like I say, it used to be. The Germans attacked. They had 4 army groups hit it. Now you can only see 3. That's because they got an exchange. They rolled an exchange. So the French units were wiped out. And so basically the corps that was parked right here disappeared. So it's no more. And that's kind of a sad thing. But, that's just nature of the beast. These guys are just eyeballing each other, looking at, what are we going to do? So that is pretty much the extent of what's going on. Well, here, yeah. There's the die roll that I used to take that city. So, it's still hanging out there. Okay, now over here, you probably figured out the previous turn that no more Serbia. Serbs are a bit to dust. Their remaining armies ran to the hills and are trying to escape being chased by Austrian-Hungarians, and they're dying in the snow of the mountains over here, I guess. Kind of reliving history, I suppose. Now, the Austrians got really ambitious over here. There was a Russian corps sitting right there, or army group, and these guys attacked and had an exchange, so there was a nice big stack of troops and stuff like that sitting there. No more. In the exchange, they had to go. And I just wander over this way as we take our long walk around the perimeter of this big map. Okay, the Germans basically solidified the line right here. There's stopgaps here. Okay, there was one attack. This demoralized. This should be flipped. That should be this. Demoralize this segment. So they attacked here and got another demoralized. So they just fell back. And over here, outside of Warsaw, the Austrians and the Germans have moved their corps up, and now we're on the outside of Warsaw. So it's going to be an interesting little thing here. Once again, we have a German corps army group here that could cut this line. And then we have units over here that could possibly cut this line. So they're just moving up. So this could be being unattainable sooner or later. So that could be a problem for them. So that is everything that's happening on the Eastern Front. For a while, they're looking pretty good for the Russians, but with some good attacks and exchanges, the Austrians basically, I think about the best they're doing is getting exchanges or demoralizing whoever they attack. The Germans, they're just looking at trying to stopgap at the moment. Their main offensive is on the Western Front. And their goal is to be in Paris by Christmas, I guess. That's what they're looking at. All right, we'll be back. All right, everybody. It is October, bottom of the turn, 1915, Allies' turn. And the French, well, they, instead of attacking anywhere, they started pulling troops out of their line. They had to fill this hole right here, so they pulled units out of here to fill it. And then they pulled some units out of here to form a unit here, and then they pulled some out of here to form this unit here. And well, I guess these guys here came from Paris. They were Paris bound, so they moved to here. And then these units pulled out to form this core army group right here. So basically, they had to form a line, or else Paris is just sitting wide open. And then the British, they had the reinforcements show up in London, and they rebuilt one of their units and dropped it off at Cherbourg. And then they had a unit in Calais that they pushed to here. I can't remember if they could go to Calais or not, so I moved them to here. So I guess the smart thing, if they couldn't go to Calais, they're going to drop them here. They can resupply them all via sea, which isn't a big deal. But I'm going to have to take a quick look in the rules to make sure which port that they allow the British to go into. Could be Calais. If it is, then these guys here will be over here the next turn. So I need to look that up. So that's all the French could do. Is like it's a very dire situation, and they had to maneuver their troops around to form up that line, because their entire northern flank just got rolled up really quickly. So that was what happened there. Now over here, obviously nothing going on in Serbia, because Serbia is no more. And we take the long tour around the table here. It takes forever to get around. Over here, Russian reinforcements showed up and was in Kiev. They had some troops show up here, railed them to here. And then they had some reinforcements show up in Minsk, and they railroaded them up to here. Dropped them off right there. So basically, some reinforcements there, some reinforcements here, and they basically formed up their line right here in by Warsaw. So it is pretty much a situation where the Russians have to consolidate. They can't go very far because the conditions are muddy here on the Eastern Front right now, so that slows things down. So that is what we have overall. So the Russians, I think, are just trying to consolidate what they have, form the line. Austrians are pretty much in the same boat, but the Germans are building up forces. They had their turn when they had the reinforcements show up. They brought them over here to the Eastern Front to stop the Russians cold, because the Russians don't have the firepower to deal with Germans. The German units just a lot more stronger. Their best Russian unit is equivalent of the worst German unit. So that just lets you know how things are. Not a good deal. So that's what the Allies did this turn. They just consolidated their forces, trying to save the Western Front from a disaster, and we'll be back in November and see what happens. All right, we'll be back.